Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Wireheads podcast. I'm Diamond Dust, professional GM, streamer on the internet.
And I am Emmerron, the guy who just works here and co-hosts this podcast because it's the fun thing to do. My name is Emmerron. I'm also a professional GM. I play Neon Inferno here as the game master on my channel. We just got done with one of my professional games like half an hour ago. And one of the things that we're talking about in that game is actually going to be very topical for my segment on the back half of the episode. But we're starting off here with you, Diamond. So let's start discussing the fun things.
So, the new September DLC has come out. And it's got everybody's favorite Danger Gal, plus Mouse on there. Anyways, on the cover, of course, we got Doc Mittens, we have Mouse, and the title, Did Someone Say Murder? An investigation system for Cyberpunk RED. So, this isn't just about doing murder mysteries, but it can be used for this. But it's a new investigation system that Linda Evans and N Jolly, aka they're streamed together. All right.
Yeah, I found out how to share the chat. So chat, I can see you all now.
We have merged the chats.
We have merged them. Yeah, no. So I'm so sorry to interrupt you in the middle of introducing the topic, but I'm like, wait, I see the button, and I pushed it. we have across the streams. Hello, but I've done it. Hello for the XP.
But with did someone say murder? There is a conversation between the what would we call 24/7? Like the title media, the star media, like what do we call it? Because traces that for the Cyber 6.
I've been referring to anyone in the single shot pack, either as like the pre-generated edge runners,
single shot crew.
Single shot crew, yeah. I mean, the 24/7 is the single shot packs media character.
Yeah.
And so this is to be like a stand-in of a sort for any player who would play media, basically. Not that they don't have their own personalities and stuff. Like 40 has like her whole, all of them have their own like little page somewhere in Danger Gal dossier. A fair number of them are under the Edge Runners chapter, but there are several like Cavalry that is in the NCPD chapter, and I believe
Racer is with the Sightseers,
right? And I was trying to think, is 24/7 with the Edge Runners, or is he with like? Okay, I was like, I couldn't remember if he was technically part of N54 or not.
Nope, there are only 3 members of N54. But there's a conversation between a dock worker named Barry, and also we have 24/7 Twofer, as some people call him.
Yeah, I referred to him as Twofer.
And this is pretty fitting for medias, especially because medias, your whole thing is about investigations. Mm-hmm. But this works for everybody in the party. So the investigation system, it's an entirely optional system that is here to help GMs run mysteries that provides a numerical, like a hard numerical value to it. And it gives some roles a chance to shine when it comes to working on investigations where they might be not so much on the social front, but they might be good at other kinds of things, such as med techs or lawmen or solos. or nomads.
Or maybe you just have a player like my wife tends to be, where they are the sledgehammer in the group, and they don't like to brain their way through puzzles. They just want Smash.
I mean,
and
who
that
doesn't
is...
enjoy a good cup of Smash?
It's my wife has always joked anytime she's played Cyberpunk at a table that I was running, her comment to the rest of the crew has almost always been, all right, guys, I need all of you to decide what intelligent thing we're doing, because you got 2 minutes to decide what that is. If it isn't reached at that point, I'm shooting. And so there was always an impetus on the whole rest of the crew to like think. And when I told her about this DLC coming out and kind of what it did, she was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Because I hate actually thinking my way through puzzles and investigations. Yeah.
And there is a bunch of there's a bunch of discussion on why this was made. And adding investigations, of course, can deepen the stories that are being told, like in the case of my campaign on Wednesday nights, Black Spark. But then also you have this mechanical system that helps players avoid being bogged down because they don't have the deductive prowess of what as described here, Dashiell Hammett's Black and White Detectives. What a reference. All right, so with that, there is a new derived statistic that comes from this, and it is called focus. Focus is 10 plus 5 times your body plus will divided by 2 rounded up. So instead of trying to do the math, they create a nice little table here going from like 10 will to 10 intelligence, because it is possible to get up to 10 intelligence due to boost. And it works very much like the body and will chart. And what focus is a pool of points that you have to work on the investigation. Nyla, this is true.
Nyla helpfully pointing out in chat that you can get 11 technically if you just tech upgrade your drugs. Yes, yeah. My favorite. The really crazy thing is that if you go beyond 10, I think you actually have to do the math for yourself.
Yep.
In terms of like, how does that work? Because the chart only goes to 10. Because they never assumed that anyone would be that unhinged, Nyla. Jesus. Why are you unhinged? But no, it's really cool. I like the way that this is done. Not only because it does 2 things simultaneously, I think, in terms of how focus works. It adds a failure meter to the players, which is always like, you need that in an investigation. You need an embedded failure state of some kind. And this just makes one that's numerically valued. That's nice, very cool, very easy to understand. But on the other end of it, it also makes it so it deals with some of the frustration about like, oh, damn it, I failed the roll, and now I want to reattempt the roll. But like, normal skill resolution rules won't let me. Unless I do like a bunch of fancy things. And here it's like, well, if you've taken some degree of resolve damage, unless it somehow has destroyed your evidence or whatever, because there are some failure cases where that can happen. But like, unless you've somehow ruined the evidence, you can just kind of reattempt it and try to reanalyze it. And, the focus loss was your consequence. It turns it into like a pseudo combat instead, which is honestly nice. I dig that, because I think sometimes there are some cases in Red where it feels like the no rerolls rule gets in the way of like the party being able to like put things together just because they have a string of bad luck or something. And it's like they can logically start to put some of these things together. It's only if they're asking for hints and stuff that failure as a consequence really matters, you know?
So, of course, when you hit zero focus, nothing like bad happens. You're just hitting an inability to properly make sense of clues or concentrate on things as a whole, which you'll have to take some time to recover and rest, which means you're doing a day of doing nothing else. And you recover, and whenever you recover hit points when resting, you also recover an amount of focus to your int plus will. And
so they give you like speed heal numbers on that, basically. That's cool.
And then on top of that, if you pass a DV15 concentration check, you get an additional 5 points. So it's not that you go all the way back up to, 55 focus points. You go maybe up to maybe 20 on a good day.
Right. Like if you're drugged out on both prime time and boost and you're like, awesome, very cool. Now I just get a ton of this back. But I mean, that's, yeah.
So with mysteries, they have a goal and they talk about complexity. So the goal is the end state of the mystery, such as figuring out who stole the experimental piece of cyberware, identifying an assailant, figuring out who done it.
Yeah.
Complexity is of a mystery indicates how hard it is to solve, serving as hit points of sorts. Each clue deciphered via an evidence check deals damage to the mystery's complexity, and once a mystery's complexity reaches 0, the crew has everything they need to come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
So, for example, an easy mystery, which is very much more, such as finding the location of a night market, is one of the examples here. It's 25 complexity. Whereas, maybe like in the case of something like Black Spark, that's 200. That would be where it's legendary. The mystery is ongoing and underpins the whole campaign, such as discovering the truth behind who knocked out the crew and transported them from New York to Night City and why they did it. Yep. Black Spark would have like 200 complexity.
Yeah, and I guess like if I were to look at Neon Inferno and kind of do the same evaluation, because like there's been kind of like investigative elements underpinning my campaign, although I haven't played it as much like an investigation, outside of like how Matchlight as a media has gone about trying to string like stories together and reason things out. I would probably say like the ones I've done in Neon Inferno are more like challenging, where they're like 100, because they are each like an arc, but they're not by themselves. They're not the whole campaign, right? Like you need multiple ones to get the whole campaign. Each one being its own kind of mini investigation within a whole. But yeah, you could apply this logic to it. But obviously we're at the very end of that season, so like we're not doing this right now, but when we get to the next season, that this may very well be a system that I start to utilize more readily, just because it is like I need to wrap my head around, like, because we were talking about this before our StartPlaying game today, where one of the players at my table was saying like, I really like investigation games. I don't really like how this simplifies that and like gamifies that. And I'm like, that's fair. Like I don't disagree with that take. because I do think like this definitely does gamify it, and it does simplify some of the more nuanced elements of an investigation and removes, I think, some of the satisfaction of like putting two and two together in your own mind before you've cleared the complexity. So I think there are going to be players that kind of look at this two ways. I've said on my end of things so far that like I think of this as a sort of an accessibility tool, because like if I'm playing with a group that I know is like really good at working investigations, I might use some of this to help frame my investigation as a GM so that I'm like doing that right. But my players might not need the whole complexity dance or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
that may not be something that they need to do at all.
Something else, also, you know, as I'm a very strong fan of like investigative missions, where it's putting the pieces together. There is actually suggestions on how to handle this when the players are able to put things together faster than the characters do. I wouldn't so much call it moving the goalpost as compared to extending, like answering more questions beyond just who did it, why did they do it, or where are they now. Like, that is something I do feel needs to be kept in an investigation, especially for those that are really, really talented at it. That there needs to be there needs to be some new. You got to be I don't know if quick on your feet is the right word, but ready to change plans when something comes up. I mean, that's something we encourage all GMs to do. However,
yeah,
something
I
that,
mean, like 90. I've said before, like 90% of your job as a GM is going to turn into improv at some point. Like, it might not start that way, but like inevitably, invariably, you will get to a point where it's easier to not prep. Paradoxically, you'll prep the things that matter. You'll prep like the motivation, or you'll prep like your battle map for the big thing that you know your players have to encounter. Like, they don't really have a choice not to get there, right? But like beyond that, you probably are just going to improv half of it, because it's like less that you have to worry about, and your players are probably going to throw themselves off of the tracks that you're kind of thinking about laying out for them. Like, and that's fine. That means the players are being creative, and I am never ever going to say that that's a problem. But yeah, you'll find like you need to be very flexible as a GM if you haven't already learned that by the time you're watching this. Oh,
so something else.
Oh, there you are. Okay. I was like, wait a minute. It looked like you were talking, and then like I didn't hear you, and I'm like,
I was in the middle of Chip.
I am so sorry. Long enough.
No, it's fine.
No, that was my fault.
You can't see me. By the way, yes, chat. I've got some chips. I got some dip, and usual things that I eat while I'm doing noir.
Jesus.
I am in fact chipping in.
Shit, she was chipping in. Oh,
something
man.
that they do include though is obfuscation.
Yeah.
Obfuscation is like armor for the mystery, where each piece of evidence will have some form of obfuscate. It's a little bit harder to determine what the clue has to offer, and it may reduce how much damage the mystery takes. So, for example, at obfuscation, at none, it's as if you're speaking to a witness who saw what happened only moments after the incident occurred, or else like a very clean recording of the incident. Light provides 2 damage reduction. I'm just gonna call it damage reduction because why not? You were speaking with someone who may have been impaired, like inebriated, or else watching a clear but partial recording of what happened. Heavy, you're talking to someone who heard about the incident from an actual witness, so you're hearing it through the grapevine, or watching, so like for some reason, despite the technology we have, some security places I know only have 360 or 480 recording on their cameras, and it's complete, but it's garbage. Or near total obfuscation. Hey, I said it. Speaking with someone who heard a rumor about what happened, or you're watching a poor quality and incomplete recording for 6 damage reduction.
Yeah. And it's worth noting in the DLC here that most of the die rolls for damage to the complexity are 3d6 or less. So on 6, I mean you're getting like half or less the damage that you want to the complexity of this thing. So it's definitely like a problem, right? Like there are plenty of times here where if you're rolling 3 or 4d6, that you'll still get something through on the complexity, but it's like in the best case scenario there, it's still shutting out like a quarter of what you would have learned otherwise. And that's in the very best case. That is assuming you're on 4d6 rolling all 6s, which, Diamond, how many times have you ever seen that happen? Like,
since I started playing back in 2020.
Yeah.
I can count. Actually,
because like I can count like maybe twice where I've seen on a 5d6 roll 4 of them came up 6s.
Yeah,
I don't know that I've ever
like
seen a 4
for 4d6.
4 6s on a 4d6. Yeah,
I've seen it happen 6 times.
Oh shit! Okay,
In the span of late 2020 to now late 2024.
Yeah, that's still more than I thought you'd say. I thought you'd say like 2 or 3 times at most. That's 6 is a lot, actually.
Roll20 is an interesting machine, all right?
Oh, okay. Hold up. Yep, that makes sense. Okay, say no more. It's Roll20's. It's Roll20's randomization cipher. I get you. Yep.
But for this situation where even if you did roll all 6s, like, yeah, near total obfuscation.
Yep.
Like, you are talking to this witness because apparently they know something about something, but they are not a reliable witness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of nice to have this, that way the party wouldn't just be able to blow the gates wide open on something. Perhaps maybe you find a clue that's really fucking cryptic, and like, you find it, then you gotta figure out what it's all about. It might either be heavy or near total at that point.
Yeah. Well, and I think as I'm looking closer at the chart here too, it's telling that the 4d6s are things that you're interacting with some like very hard evidence, right? Like you got digital scavenging, which means like you got a file that's somehow related to this and can like scrape metadata out of it, which is like probably the most wishy-washy of the 3 of these that offer that kind of damage. Then you've got autopsy and forensics, which both of which are like you're interacting with it directly. So neither one of those should be terribly obfuscated. Like, unless you're dealing with like, yes, we have footprints, which is a forensic, but it is the correct footprints are but one set in a like area where there's like a bunch of unrelated footprints that have trampled them already. Like that would be like the only case where I could see that being like total obfuscation of like forensic evidence.
And also, so, yeah, on top of that,
that's weird.
All the ones that are marked at 4d6, paramedic or surgery, but surgery is locked to medtech only. Paramedic is a difficult skill.
That usually is taken by medtechs only, basically.
Yeah. We have EST, electronic security tech, which is also a difficult skill. And then finally, criminology and deduction, which you don't often see a lot of people take unless it is very much like to their character to have such things.
Yeah, I mean, some of the people I play with will take higher deduction because they've seen me call for it enough. Like, this is the funny thing about skills in Cyberpunk RED, in terms of, like, you'll hear people like us talk about them, like, oh yeah, well, like, you know, this is a difficult skill or whatever, like paramedic, like I just said, like, you don't take it unless you're a med tech, basically, because, like, what's the point if you're not a med tech? You could do it, like, it's not, there's no rule saying you can't. Electronic security, at least, is one that I've seen enough people take, because, like, techs and netrunners technically both should, I think, have a degree of experience in that. And criminology and deduction are kind of in that same boat, where it's like, you probably won't take them unless you're like a lawman. Lawman is like the one role that you would maybe want to take those.
Media for deduction.
Oh, yeah, media too, I suppose. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, other than that, like, if you start calling for roles like that at a table, all of a sudden the players, the third or fourth time they hear the role called for, and they're like, damn it, I wish I could roll good on this. They'll start thinking the next character they make, I'm like, put points in deduction. Like, it's immediate. They're like, I will have this next time. Acting's another one like that at my table.
Yeah, this is one of those that it's just like trying to find like the other pieces of evidence here. I mean, the 4d6 ones are like the real big heavy hitters, but we have auditing, which requires accounting or bureaucracy, which does 3d6 damage to the mystery. Chemical analysis, which does 3d6. Decipher, which that requires basic tech or inappropriate science. You have cryptography for deciphering. And it looks like the lower the amount of damage it does to the mystery, the lower amount it does to your focus on a failure. Of course, you know, you got gossip, which is conversation, persuasion, or streetwise. Interrogation, which is human perception or interrogation, which does 3d6 damage. And then also observation, which is human perception for observation. I imagine that would have just been a perception-based skill to, you know, just kind of stake out and watch a location.
Well, because let me see. Because I was reading ahead, like a problem child here. Let me see.
No, that's fine.
You were saying which one was human perception?
Observation.
Well, it's human perception or perception.
Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised. Human perception falls in that number.
You could be observing a witness, is the idea there, and being like, okay, like, what are the tells of the person, right? Or like when they're exposed to imagery or something like that, like how do they behave or whatever. And then, yeah, that would be like human perception, because you're looking for their reaction or response to stimuli, which, yeah, that makes sense. But I agree, most of the time that's probably gonna be perception, because you're probably not looking at a person, you're probably gonna be looking at a scene.
Then let's see, research, educational library search, obviously really important skills that anyone should just have. Stealth, of course, for tailing or for the tailing evidence, and then tracking, use tracking. Might even put that what the fucking sniffer boost.
Olfactory boost.
Olfactory, yes. Yep. And then, of course, solving mystery. Each edge runner involved can make one evidence check per clue per day when they're working on stuff. So, you know, say there's 4 edge runners and 3 clues, 12 checks can be made. I think that's right. I think the math's that way, right? Because each person can investigate each clue per day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think the math's on that. I'm trying to find where oh, there it is.
Also on top of
I'm
that,
looking for a Q&A list. There we go.
GMs. Evidence checks don't have a set duration, can take as long as you feel they need to take. Some can be as quick as a single action, others might take some time to research. So maybe while you're tailing somebody, that's gonna take most of your evening. You know, doing research over a certain subject matter might take hours. An autopsy alone takes days of like really focused and hard looking like taking a really hard look at whatever they're working on. Also, if you need to be able to prompt your players, if the players are feeling aimless and unsure of where to go next, allow them to make a DV15 deduction check. And you can point them in the direction they need to go. However, they do take 1d6 focus damage from this. If they become, because of the mental strain of racking their brains for a possible solution. And then, of course, we have obstacles.
Yeah, these I think are probably like the best thing in terms of like, if you struggle, because this is the thing that always like, I think gets in the way of most GMs when they're trying to write an adventure is like, okay, what's the complication, right? Having a list of obstacles to kind of give you something to pick from and like work with, and like just having that as a reference point is like always useful for me. Like I love tables that give me like obfuscations, complications, things like that I can just like yes, here. Like I don't have to think hard about it. I just pick off the list, say which one of these makes the most sense, and just throw it in there.
All right. So, obstacles include authority, corporations or other powerful individuals that get in the way of progress. I suppose, you know, for example, you know, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Have you had something come up in Black Spark where somebody got in the middle of, you know, Danger Gal kind of became a obstacle for Neon Inferno?
Well,
for a time.
They were supposed to be a big obstacle, and then they turned into an ally before it was all over. They actually became a friend, not an obstacle, by the end of it. And that was just because the party got very, very creative with how they navigated that situation. So yeah, like the authority obstacle the party had to overcome really was the NCPD. That was a big one in Neon Inferno. Both seasons, actually. The NCPD are kind of always in the way. Because yeah, they were the ones who were like creating these scenarios where the party would constantly like run up against brick walls and shit like that. So yeah, like the fact that authorities could get in your way and like throw you off the trail or make the trail harder to follow because they're like, you're not authorized to be here, get the fuck out of here. It's like, okay, well, I can't come in and examine the forensic evidence if I can't access it because the NCPD or some corpo guard is telling me to fuck off. Like, that just isn't doable, sadly.
Actually, it's corporate officer, thank you.
I'll flatline them all the same, Diamond. I don't really give a fuck. The corpse doesn't care what I call it. It's dead.
Don't mind me breaking open my juice pouch over here. But we also have cultural disputes. Differences in cultural understandings or customs to obscure information. So, I suppose a great example of this would be, of course, fixers having to talk with their people. And they have to know whose territory they're walking on. Like, for example, like trying to get any information. I was thinking about it with like Trace showing up to the fucking Piranha's party today at the session that we had. Like, how did he know how to get in here? That's my question. Like, how did he know?
Is someone gonna turn away a big name celebrity at a giant party?
Shit, you're right.
Playoff influence, maybe a bribe. I mean, like, there's all kinds of ways that someone with that kind of influence can get in somewhere if they really want to,
But also on top of that, maybe you are going into communities where you don't speak the language, or maybe your street slang isn't quite up to snuff, or maybe you're from Little Europe and you're now down in Santo Domingo and the people aren't understanding what you're talking about. Digital information is locked away in a hard to access net architecture. Let's hope you have a net runner or a tech who's really, really good at getting in there. A distraction. Another event that makes it difficult to focus on the investigation. As in, make something blow up nearby.
Squirrel. Yeah, that's pretty much. That's
hey,
the way of it.
Rent's due.
My favorite distraction.
Time to go.
Real life.
Time to go run a job, so that way you have enough to pay for your little place and your little food. Fatigue. Just being physically or mentally exhausted can make progress difficult. I imagine, after a long day of having to deal with like gang violence, probably the last thing you want to do is look at whatever the hell you've been trying to investigate for the past couple days.
I see you pulled an all-night stakeout at the suspected person's house and got nothing for it. What a shame. You're fucking tired as shit the next day.
Roll that endurance check. Legal. Police or other peacekeepers to deny access to vital parts of the case.
I love how that somehow is different than authority, because technically it's the same thing, but only different.
Well, I feel like with the matter of police, it might be very much more like you're trying to work trying to get to a crime scene, and the police are just cutting you off here because you're not cops, get out of here. Whereas corporations, it might be very much more they have information that they're trying to keep obscure from you, so they're gonna use what pull they have to keep you away from it.
I mean, I guess. I think authority ultimately, I mean, for the 2020 heads in chat, authority was the lawman ability in 2020. So, like, the way I look at authority is very much like, why would we give you this information? Or rather, like, it depends, I guess, what lens you're looking at authority through. Because, like, legal tells me more like, we are going to, because of this legal loophole, we don't have to honor your like FOIA request or something like that, right? Where there's like, yes, we understand that absent bureaucracy, this is a very easy, simple request to honor, but we have the power of bureaucracy. So we're gonna fuck with your ability to access this because we can. That's what legal reads to me. Whereas authority is like, we're powerful, fuck off, we have a gun.
Well,
like,
also I feel like with legal is very much more, you could possibly end up in some serious legal trouble, you know, chasing down what you're looking for. And maybe
potentially, but that's also true of trumped up charges from authority. Yeah. Like, that's the other side of the coin there too. That's why I'm like, they are so fucking close. They're like very, very, very close. So that's where it's like, it's a very nuanced distinction, I think, there. Either way, the point's there.
Nyla says, overcome authority with the bribery skill. Wow.
True.
For sometimes.
True. Yeah, if the authority is someone that like really doesn't want you to know the thing, like the dirty cop or politician that you're actually after, they are just gonna try to fucking kill you. Like, that's probably what's gonna happen, if we're honest. Like, they're gonna send a hitman to flatline you and anyone else investigating. Or, rather than flatlining you directly with an order, they tip off the right people, quote unquote, that hold a grudge against you already and tell them some shit that they would hate about you, and therefore they're ready to hear it, right? Like, oh yeah, that guy over there, the edge runner in this case that's hunting them down, yeah, remember that time you guys got your shit ransacked? What if I told you that's the guy that did it? And then they just look at the edge runner in question here and say, yeah, we're mad about that still. And they just go after him. And then the authority figures, I get away with it. Because they didn't call for them to kill you. They just told them something that they wanted to know. And it just so happened to put you at the tip of their spear. Oh, well.
Well, then we also have misdirection.
Yeah.
Case takes a... well, also there's location. Location is just, it's a very hard to reach place, is where the case is taking you. Misdirection, information on the case is muddied in the waves of digital gossip or whatever else people might have. Where, you know, so whether it be somebody's like intentionally, you know, feeding the machine and making it look like one thing when it's really something else. Or, of course, you do have just the fact that in the time in a world like Cyberpunk, there's no like, there's probably not going to really be a clean source except for where it exactly came from or a firsthand view of what happened. Somebody might throw something else in there that didn't really happen or they thought happened. Everyone's going to have an opinion about the matter, and those opinions will get in there.
As Jay Gray himself will remind everyone that asks, your adventure is not canonical in Cyberpunk because everything in Cyberpunk is a story that some guy is telling at a bar. And this just is like a beautiful illustration, an almost meta-nested illustration of that, where it's like, ah, yes, you didn't have the first-hand account. Too bad.
Missing clue. Clue is, and you know, if a clue just isn't available at the moment, maybe you guys are missing like a very specific thing that might, be able to wrap everything together. Maybe it's that one last piece of hard evidence to, get a nice seal and shut case, like open and shut case on the media's latest story. But maybe you're missing the weapon in question. Maybe you're missing the body.
If only I had the literal smoking gun that would tie all of this together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or perhaps there's bullet holes but no bullet casings. Well, I guess in time of the Red, I mean, most things are caseless anyway.
Yeah, I mean, but there's still would likely be around. Like if you're digging around at a hole in the wall that looks like it was made by a gun, and the hole isn't all the way through, you can expect somewhere in that wall should be, at the bare minimum, fragments of a round. So if it just isn't there because the perp actually cleaned up after themselves, oh my. Well, one, you're dealing with a professional. Two,
watch your back.
Your players are gonna your players are gonna hate you as well, because they're just like, what do you mean? There's a hole and no bullet. What the fuck? They're gonna freak out. I say this because I know I have had players in the past that would be like, what do you mean? It's right there. Yes, but the bullet isn't.
There's also the other thing with missing clues, that sometimes the clue just isn't there yet. Maybe a little bit of time needs to pass before that clue shores up.
And Nyla just said, some guy came to my door. He calls himself Chekhov.
Oh yes. My God, Nyla. No.
Exactly, Nyla. Good old Chekhov's gun. I love it.
Red herring. It's something that looks like a clue that isn't. Basically, it's when the player... For those of you who played the jacket is in a way kind of an investigation. Oh, it is.
It is. It's got elements that feel more like it than others, I will say. But a great example of red herring in that is if you look at the subway beat. There's a great red herring in there with like, why did the dude's girlfriend get a jacket that looked similar to the one you're after? And like, they'll explain it to the GM in the book. The players never really are sure of it or why. They're just like, well, that's useless.
And also, red herring should never be presented to the players as an obstacle. Present it as an evidence check. If they beat the DV, they realize that the red herring isn't a clue. If they fail, tell them that they haven't deciphered the clue yet, and roll damage as if they failed an evidence check. So, that's good.
Oh, see this is the thing, right? Like, okay, hold on, because I know who all was involved in writing this. Linda Evans and N. Jolly, editing and development by
Jolly.
Jay. Okay, yeah, Drut and Jolly. Okay, so that makes so much sense, because I could just that sounds like that is N. Jolly level trolling right there.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yes. It's just the clue that you haven't solved yet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love it. God. Oh my God. That is, because I could just as easily, I'm like, this sounds like Jay, this sounds like James. The fact that Anjali is the one who actually did it doesn't shock me either, though. Like, this sounds like the kind of trolling that just happens in Cyberpunk RED development. It's so funny. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Also, of course, other ones include social engineering, such as manipulating the flow of information about the incident. It's just like, sure, yeah, I saw it, but then the player proceeds to omit X, Y, and Z in the process. While, they happen to know a little bit more, and they're just trying to help the perp. Technological issues, because in the time of the Red, don't count on things working all the time. Technology in the case is proving difficult to interface with due to poor conditions or unfamiliarity. And, territory disputes. Just happened that, the case is taking you right between Iron Sights and Red Chrome Legion territory. Have fun.
Oh boy.
And then finally, the ticking clock. Sometimes a mystery will be time sensitive. Maybe they are, the edge runners are against a deadline they may or may not be aware of. Deliver the ransom before, this time, or the hostage will be returned in a selection of fast food Oh. And
that's beautiful. That is beautiful. I love that. I would also argue that most investigations probably have a ticking clock. It's just that the party's not always aware of it. That's more the question. But like, there's someone out there that unless this was created, unless this is regarded by the person who did it as this happened 10 years ago, and they know the cops are stumped, or anyone who would bother investigating is stumped, they probably just think they got away with it. And unless they're given reason to believe otherwise, there probably isn't a ticking clock there. But anything that just happened where the perp is trying to get away with it, there is going to be a ticking clock, because eventually the perp will skip town, or they'll do something to permanently obfuscate their trail, or they're going to do any number of things that could make the thing happen and be impossible to solve, or they go so far away as to be out of reach. Because another thing in the time of the Red, getting places that aren't in the same city is really hard.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, when crafting a mystery, sometimes you just have to figure out, for me, I like to look at the resolution and where the players are beginning at, and then kind of figure out what clues I need to put between here and there, and how the web is going to be laid out. And sure enough, your players will find their way. And of course, we've talked about writing mysteries before and writing investigations a little bit.
Yeah.
But
they
do a really good job here.
Yeah, they do a really good job here. And what I would say is I would encourage you guys to read through this, because it's going to make more sense if you read through it, because there's also some samples on the back for you to use as kind of templates.
Yeah.
Because and this, I'd like to say that this is another great DLC. Diamond and I have both commented on this repeatedly, more recently on the podcast, that this year feels like they can't really miss with DLCs. The DLCs all year long have just been banger after banger after banger.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Because all we got left is, let's see, Halloween, November, and then the 12 days of something.
Right.
Maybe the 12 days of Netmas.
Yeah, it's funny. Recently, Jay, forget where he posted it, but he said something like, Netrunner is the most supported job in the game, or the most supported role in the game. And I'm like,
what? Huh? You mean tech, right?
Well, no, because tech doesn't have that many extra tools. They've got one 20,000 eddy thing. They got a tech scanner. They don't have a ton of extra stuff.
Powerwood homebrew.
Sure, but that's not support. That's different.
Fair enough.
Homebrew is whatever. He meant in the official system that netrunners were like the most supported role.
Most supported.
I don't.
We
agree,
have one DLC that happens to provide a lot of like things in it.
Yeah.
But I do feel that solos, techs, and gosh, I feel maybe nomads also have a lot of support.
I think nomads have a lot of support. I think nomads med techs now have a ton of support. Because I don't know about solos. I mean, solos, they're just weapon people. Like, it's not like they've got a ton of stuff that like specifically supports their role to the detriment or the exclusion of others.
Fair enough. But it's
like,
just more.
Any weapon can be construed as solo support, but it's not like it's only supporting a solo, right? Like when we talk support, I'm talking like a role specific, like you cannot get a benefit.
Items, yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of where I'm like med techs have a ton because we have Hornets Pharmacy. Netrunners have got their article, which is, midnight with the upload. Nomads have Nomad Access and the entire vehicle chapter of Black Chrome, plus a handful of others that have kind of been given out here and there, like the Sawtooth.
For me, I look at it like in general, who can use most of this stuff?
Right.
Like what roles can really pick up and run with any of these?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it really does. Nyla makes a good point. It depends what metric we're using for support. I would be interested to hear Jay's thoughts on that personally. Like why he thinks Netrunner is the most supported. Because there are times where I'm like, yeah, like Netrunner has a lot of gear, sure. Like we've got a lot of random gear stuff that gives us extra slots or whatever, but like the cyber decks we got in Midnight with the Upload are like niche. Most of them are very niche. Like they're not things you're gonna use often, if at all. And like a lot of the hardware we got in that is also very niche and like requires building Netrunner a very particular way. It's not like Netrunners have received like a ton of broad support, right? Where it's like, this is just good for your Netrunner. Full stop, no caveat kind of things, right? Like we've got the Lotus net suit, right? Which is like the heavy armor jack equivalent jumpsuit. And then we've got like your integration upgrade that came with Black Chrome. And that's kind of it. Like those are the only additional things we've gotten that are just like generically good for all Netrunners. Like, and even the Lotus net suit, I'd even argue, is kind of debatable.
I mean, I feel with the Lotus net suit, if you're playing a Netrunner that maybe isn't as oriented, isn't as like focused on the mobility aspect of combat, but much more hunkering down and getting the job done while your buddies cover for you. I could see the Lotus net suit doing its job there, because it really feels like the Lotus net suit is really good for dwellers and those that
it's good for,
stay out of the way.
Right, like it's good for those kinds of players. My only issue is that if you do get found, you still need to be able to dodge or contest brawling, and losing dex in your armor cost there is like, that sucks. Like that really sucks, because it's like my only defense from getting ripped out of a network forcibly in meat space is not being able to be forced to move and not being able to brawl the attacker that's trying to do that. Is like, That is my last line of defense, is contesting the brawling check. Like, everything before that is good, but I need to be able to like hold off my attacker in a brawl. If push comes to shove, my attacker has their hands on me, and there are other things that can already debuff my dex in a net and stuff like liches. So it's kind of like, I don't like it. Makes me feel less secure in my net running, to be honest, because the extra SP doesn't give a damn about black ice. So if they forcibly jack me out and I don't have some protection against that, I just get my brain fucking burned. And it's like, your 13 SP did fuck all. Or if you get choked out, your SP did fuck all. Like,
Yeah.
Reflex coprocessor is, so here's your problem with that, Nyla. Like, yes, I agree that reflex coprocessor becomes somewhat necessary if you take the Lotus. But there's also the problem then, because your dex got lowered, your evasion gets lowered, and it hurts just as bad.
So from this point here, I do feel we with the DLC, with this DLC in particular though, this
Yes.
I feel it really benefits media the most.
Media and lawmen. It gives lawmen some extra stuff too.
I mean,
for sure.
yeah, it does. But if I had to say, like, you know, when it comes down to like the matter of like evidence, for example, I mean, medias kind of have a nice have a little bit more of a mechanical setup to work with at this time. So, I think on that note, folks, we are going to be heading over to Emmerron's channel to talk about something that became very relevant during this past Thursdays for those of you guys watching on YouTube. This, you know, past Thursday's session, and what's been probably really relevant for our campaign a lot.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I'm Diamond Dust.
And I'm Emmerron.
And we'll see you in the next episode. Link is down below. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.